Ohai. Moscow, the capital of Russia, the federal city, the administrative center of Central Federal District and the center of the Moscow region, which part is not the most populated city of Russia and its subject -12,632,409 people. 2022. The most inhabited from the cities which are completely located in Europe. The largest Russian-speaking city in the world takes the 22nd place among the cities of the world on population. The best megalopolis of the world on quality of life and development of infrastructure. Assessment of Experts of the Union, 2022. Center of the Moscow city agglomeration. The first written mention of Moscow belongs to 1147, and the history of the city contains, at least, 874 years. Archaeological data confirm existence of the city settlement near future Kremlin since the 11th century. Moscow, the historical capital of the Grand Duchy of the Moscow, Russian Kingdom, the Russian Empire. In 1728-1732. The Soviet Russia and the USSR. Hero Town. In Moscow there are federal public authorities of the Russian Federation, except for the Constitutional Court. Embassies of the foreign states, the headquarters of most the largest Russian commercial organizations and public associations. It is located in the west of Russia, on the river Moscow in the center of the East European plain, to entre Rios of Oka and Volga. Is the territorial subject of the Federation. Moscow borders on the Moscow and Kaluga regions. Moscow, the popular tourist center of Russia. The Kremlin, Red Square, the Novodevichy Convent and Church of Rise in Kolomna are included into the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List. It is the major transport hub. The city is served by 6 airports, 10 railway stations, 3 river ports. There is a river message with the seas of basins of the Atlantic and Arctic Oceans. Since 1935 in Moscow the subway works. Moscow, the sports center of the country. In 1980 in Moscow played the 22 Summer Olympic Games, and in 2018 the city became one of hosts of the Championship of the World on Soccer. The name of the city comes from the name of the river. The etymology of Agadron in Moscow is definitely not established. Recently among specialists hypotheses about Baltic, Slavic origin of the name of the river were widely adopted. In Slavic and Baltic versions a primordial word meaning was liquid, fenny, crude, slushy. In the version about Finno-Ugric origin bring an explanation out of different languages. From the Komi of a mosque, a cow, a heifer, from Muryansky a mask, bear, from the Baltic Finnish must, black, dark. At present this version has not enough supporters. The linguistem. Some are called unsuccessful attempts of etymology from Finno-Ugric. 5. B. Nereznak recognizes them ill-founded. Objections are explained by the following facts. The most ancient form of an oikonym recorded in sources is not considered. Insolvency of an explanation of Agadron in Moscow from Komi language. Komi never lived in the territory close to a current of this river. Moray mask, it is borrowed from the Russian word Mekka, a bear female, in the 14th, 15th centuries. Inconsistency of etymology consists of Baltic Finnish that each part of the name speaks from the different languages removed from each other. Must, from Finnish, va, from the Komi. Geographical location. Moscow is in the center of the East European plain, to entre Rios of Oka and Volga, on a joint of Smolensk-Moscow Upland. In the west, Moscow-Oka Plain. In the east, and Meshura lowland. In the southeast. The city is located on the Russian plate, which is a part of the East European platform. To the north and the northeast of Moscow there is the Moscow Sineklize, the largest depression of the central part of the East European platform. The territory of the city as of January 1, 2014 makes 2,561.5 km. About a third of this area, 878.7 km, is in Ring, Mykod, Aue. Moscow is in our zone Moscow time. Moscow time. Shift of the applied time concerning UTS is +300. According to the applied time and geographical longitude, average solar midday in Moscow comes at 12:30. The highest point is on the Tepostansky height and makes 255 m. The lowest point, near Besedinsky Bridge, is where the river Moscow leaves the city. Height of this point above sea level is 114.2 m. The city is located on both banks of the river of Moscow, in its average current. In addition to this river, in the territory of the city several dozens of other inflows of the Moscow River. Rivers, the largest of which, Skodnya, Himka, Presnya, Neglinaya, Yaza and the Beger. The left inflows. And also Zitan, Kotlovka and Gorodnya. The right inflows. Flow. In Moscow there is a lot of also other reservoirs. Within Mykod about 150 small rivers and streams, many of which proceed in collectors, and also about 240 open reservoirs, ponds and lakes. Climate of Moscow, moderately continental, with accurately expressed seasonality. The winter. The period with an average daily temperature below 0 C. On average lasts about 4 months, from second decade of November. On November 12 to the second decade of March. On March 19. Daytime temperature steadily returns to positive values on March 3. In calendar winter the periods of hard frosts. With nighttime temperature 20 C, it is rare 25 30 C. Can be noted short 3-5 days. At the same time in December and the beginning of January, thaw wind temperature with 5 10 C rises up to 0 C are frequent and above, sometimes reaching values in +5, +9 C. According to a meteorological station of ENIA, for the period 1991-2020, January is coldest month of year. Its average temperature is 6.2 C. Spring seasons on duration vary from year to year and can be from 1 to 3 months. Sometimes almost summer temperatures are registered at the beginning of April. At the same time, at the end of May, the beginning of June, there are returns of cold weather. The summer. The period with daytime temperature above plus 20 C and average daily above plus 15 C lasts about 3.5 months, from third decade of May, on May 23, until the end of August. On August 31, daytime temperature quite often reaches a 30-degree point. On average 6-8 days during the season in 2010 are continuous 1.5 months. The 35-degree mark for the last 30 years was reached 18 times, from them 16 in 2010. Warmest month July is. Its average temperature for the period is 1981, 2010 plus 19.2 C. The fall in Moscow long comes from the beginning of September, comes to an end in the middle of November, the beginning of December, when average daily temperature it becomes steady below 0 C. Quite often temperature after the beginning of meteorological winter returns to positive values, snow cover completely descends. Average annual temperature in the city according to 1991-2020 is plus 6.3 C. 2020 became the warmest for all history of meteorological observations in the capital. Average annual temperature was plus 8.0 C, and average daily maximum plus 11.5 C. At the same time, for the first time in the history of meteorological observations, average monthly positive temperature is recorded in January. Earlier 2019 was the warmest, then average temperature was plus 7.8 C, and at the same time average positive temperatures on months are recorded including in March, November and December. The cold in the capital remain 1888. Plus 1.7 C. According to 1961-1990, average annual temperature was plus 5.0 C. Average annual speed of wind minus 2.3 m/s. The average annual humidity of air minus 77%, in December reaches 85%, in May falls up to 64%. The most high temperature of air for the 130-year period of observations was noted on July 29, 2010 and made plus 38.2 C on a meteorological station of Enya, plus 39.0 C on a meteorological station Balchig in the downtown and at Domodedovo airport in the period of an abnormal heat. The lowest temperature was registered on January 17, 1940 and was 42.2 C. A meteorological station of Ts. On the basic meteorological station of Moscow, Enya, the absolute minimum made 38.1 C. January 1956. In a year in Moscow and the territory adjoining to it 600-800 mm of an atmospheric precipitation drop out, from them the most part falls on the summer period. Level of rainfall changes in rather big range, and it is possible as their large number. For example, in July 2008 180 mm of rainfall, and small. For example, in July 2010 only 13 mm of rainfall dropped out. Duration of light day fluctuates of 7 hours 00 minutes on December 21 till 17 hours 34 minutes on June 21. The maximum height of the sun over the horizon, from 11 on December 21 to 58 on June 21. Climate of Moscow. Records for the entire period of observations. 1879-2021 The integrated data of Ts. Enya. Regulation of 1991-2020. Enya. Average annual number of hours of sunshine minus 1731 hour. For the period 2001-2010 averaged more than 1900 hours. The frequent phenomenon in the territory of Moscow are fogs and thunderstorms. From time to time in Moscow there are such abnormal weather phenomena as hurricanes, heavy rains and even tornadoes. In the night of June 21, 1998, one of the most destructive hurricanes in the history of the city fell upon the capital. Krylatsky Holmy. On the area of green plantings, Moscow is comparable to the most green cities of the world, Sydney and Singapore. In Moscow there are 436 park and planted trees and shrubs territories. Green plantings occupy 54.5% of the square of the city. In Moscow there are such forest and park massifs as the Izmailovsky Park, the Timorizevsky Park, Filyovsky Park. Forest Park. The Moskvorets Park, the Lublin Park, the Butovo Forest Park, the Botanical Garden, Neskushny Garden, the Bitsevsky Forest Park, Memorial Estates Tsaritsyno and Kolomna, the Kuzminsky Forest Park, a forest park of Kuskovo and others. Also in city boundaries there is a part of Natural National Park Losny Ostrov, a set of squares and recreational zones. Fauna. The fauna of Moscow is various. For example, not only squirrels, hedgehogs and hares, but also larger wild animals, such as boar and elk, dappled deers are found in National Park Losny Ostrov. Also predators, a fox, a mink and an ermine are found. Wild ducks and herons nest in the Verkhnyovsky part of Losny Ostrov, rare pheasants and great partridges are found. Since the time of Ivan the Terrible, Losny Ostrov is under special protection, at first as the place of imperial hunting, and since 1983 as Natural National Park. Many wild animals also live in the Bitsevsky Forest. The hedgehogs, common shrews and even bats so rare in the capital. Hares, a white heron, a hare, a vole, caress, proteins. The elk and a boar come from Moscow area. Bring baby birds of a duck, the Korostel nests. National Park Losny Ostrov. Such rare animal as hazel dormouse lives in Moscow. In Moscow its shelters are found in the Bitsevsky Forest, the Losinustrovsky Forest Park, the Izmailovsky Wood. Also black polecat is rare, he lives in valleys of the rivers on which coast alternate the wood, a meadow and thickets of a bush. Stationary dwelling is established in several places of the city. At the Black Lake, in the valley of river. Staircases and also in Krylatsky and Bratyevo floodplains. During the period from 1985 to 2000. Hares in Moscow can be found in the Izmailovsky Forest, the Kuzminsky Forest Park, in the Bitsevsky Forest and Silver Boar. Caresses in forests. Losny Ostrov, Izmailovsky, Kuzminsky, Burulyevo, Bitsevsky, Filikontsevsky Forest Parks. In valleys of the rivers. Rednovka, Black, Alyoshinki, Chechiora, Satuni, Ramenki, Bratovki, Staircases, Kliazma. In floodplains. Tulymurinsky, Bratyevo, Manyavnikovsky, Skidnensky Bowl. And also on the west bank of the Khimki Reservoir. There is a red list of Moscow, in it the rare and disappearing in the territory of Moscow animal species are listed. are mentioned in it: a hedgehog ordinary, forest do not ridge, an ermine and caress, an alpine hare and a hare, a hazel dormouse and a forest mashovka, an ordinary hamster. The largest predator in Moscow, an ordinary fox, lives in the park Losny Ostrov, the Kosminsky Forest Park, the Bitsevsky Wood and others. Among birds, the big and small bittern, a grey duck, ordinary gogol, marshlan, a propelitnik, sapson and the kestrel, a hazel grouse and a boltcoot, a lapwing, a snipe and a woodcock, seagulls, small, lake, grey, a ringdove and an ordinary turtle dove, begeared and marsh owls, a house horned owl, a pigeon, a sparrow and crows live. And also ordinary goatsucker and halcyon, grey and green woodpeckers and even coastal swallow. Ecology. The ecological situation of Moscow is influenced by prevalence of the western and northwest winds in the city. The quality of city water resources is better in the northwest of the city, is higher on the Moscow River current. An important factor of improvement of an ecosystem of the city is preserving and development of squares, parks and trees in the yards which were affected in recent years by pointed building. Environmental monitoring in Moscow is performed by 39 automatic stationary stations controlling the content in air 22 of pollutants and its general level of pollution. The high level of pollution of atmospheric air is noted near large highways and industrial zones, especially in the center and east and southeast parts of the city. The highest level of air pollution in Moscow is observed in the areas of Kapotnya, Kasino-Yuktomsky and Marino, because of the Moscow oil refinery located within the city, the Lyubertsy and Kiryanovsky stations of aeration. Among sources of pollution of Moscow, exhaust gases of motor transport are on the first place. Air is polluted also by thermal power plants, factories and the plants, evaporations of the heated asphalt. According to the consulting company Mercer, Moscow is recognized as one of the most polluted capitals of Europe. So, in rating for 2007, Moscow took the 14th place on impurity level among the capitals of the world. History. The age of Moscow is definitely not known. Pioneer settlements arose in the territory of Moscow in the Neolithic era, about 8,000 years BB. The Tsuritsino Park. The settlement of a Middle Bronze Age of Fatinovsky culture is revealed. Also settlements of an era of bronze are known in the neighborhood of the Borovitsky Hill. Since the end of the I millennium near modern Moscow Slavs lodged. Residents of Vyutka and Krivichi. Residents of Vyutka made the main part of the initial population of Moscow. The archaeological excavations which are carried out near the Kremlin demonstrate that in the 11th century there was already a settlement protected by a shaft and a ditch that allows to carry it to the cities. The first annalistic mention is the indication of the Ipatevsky Chronicle on Friday, April 4, 1147, when the Growth and Suzdal Prince Yuri Dolgoruki accepted in the town under the name Moskov of the Friends and Allies led by Novgorod, the Seversk Prince Svятославovich. In 1156 new wooden strengthenings were constructed here. The total area increased by 3-4 times. Moscow is mentioned in the Novgorod Burkbark manuscript of the 12th century as Kukuk. The most ancient Cyrillic inscription in the territory of Moscow is revealed on its stone form for the casting of metal small weights found under the 14th body of the Kremlin in an occupation layer of the end of the first third of the 13th century. In 1237-1238, during Mongolo-Tatar invasion to Russia, Moscow was plundered and burned, however it was restored soon. Moscow, the capital of the principality. In the second half of the 13th century, at the Prince Daniel Alexandrovich, the younger son of Alexander Nevsky, Moscow became the center of the independent Pacific Principality. The location of the city on crossing of trade ways promoted its growth and the eminence. At the beginning of the 14th century, of ownership of Moscow extended, the Kolomna and Mashaysk principalities were attached to them. In the 14th century, there is a further eminence of Moscow as the new all-Russian center. Starting with Yuri Danilovich, the Moscow princes carried a title, the Grand Duke Vladimir, being considered as supreme within northeast Russia and Novgorod. In 1325, the residence of metropolitans was transferred to Moscow, and in 1589 the Moscow Patriarchy was founded. At the Prince Ivan I Danilovich Kalita in Moscow, large-scale construction was developed. There were first stone buildings. Till the time the city was completely wooden. In the beginning of the 15th century, Moscow was the large trade and craft city. Territories of the Kremlin, Kitaygorod, and settlements in Zamoskvorchi, Zanaglimany and Zayuzy were its part. Russian Kingdom. Capital of the uniform Russian state. At the end of the 15th century, at the Prince Ivan III Vasilievich, Moscow becomes the capital of the Russian state. The new status promoted growth of the city and formation of the country by the economic and cultural center. The industry and crafts developed. Production of weapon, fabrics, tanning, potters, jewelry, construction business. There were gun and printing yards. Big heights were reached by the Moscow architecture. Borders of Moscow considerably extended. By the end of the 16th century, territories of the White City and the Earth City were its part. The system of defensive works was created. In the 14th-18th centuries in Moscow, several times there were large revolts and fires. In 1565, after separation by the Tsar Ivan the Terrible of the Russian state into Oprichnina and Azemshina, the city became the center of the last. In the period of the time of troubles, in 1605, Moscow was entered by troops of the self-appointed Tsar False I. The power of the impostor in the city fell in 1606. During the popular uprising, he was killed by residents of Moscow. From 1608 to 1610, in government of the new elected Tsar Vasily Chusky, Moscow as in a siege of troops of the second impostor False the Tridu, who located by the camp in Duzhino. During this period, the message of Moscow with the rest of the state was complicated. The siege was raised by the way to Moscow from Novgorod. In March 1610, Mikhail Skopinichusky's troops with the Swedish mercenaries. In 1610, after defeat of troops of Vasily Shusky, in Klushinsky fight, Moscow was occupied by the Polish troops of Stanislav Sulkevsky. Attempts in 1611 to exempt the city from Poles, the first territorial militia, under the leadership of Prokopy Lipanov, Ivan Zarutsky and the Prince Tatry Trubetsko, were not crowned with success. In 1612, troops of the second territorial militia, led by the territorial head Kuzma Minin and the Prince Tatry Pozharsky, left Nizhny Novgorod, and on October 22. On November and fight on Devichi Pole, broke the Polish troops. Exempted Moscow from Poles, having compelled at the end of 1612, their garrison to capitulate in the Kremlin and to leave Moscow. In the 1st century of board of a dynasty of Romanov, In Moscow in 1613, Mikhail Fyodorovich, who laid the foundation for more than 300-year board of a dynasty of Romanov, was spread on the kingdom. In the 17th century, the line of Moscow finally includes the Earth City, is completed, and the Moscow Kremlin takes a modern form. Appeared the Yamsky, petty bourgeois and German settlement. Purchases great value the imperial residence Kolomna. In 1654, the pharmaceutical order training of pupils of doctor business is organized. The middle and the second half of the 17th century was marked in Moscow by a number of social and political revolts. Salt-Copper Streletsky 1682 and 1698. The engraved plan from the book by Sigismund Gerberstein of A Note about Moscovia. Gerberstein was in Moscow in 1517 and 1526. The plan is dated 1556. Great Hunger 1601. Troitsk Siege 1608. Exile of Poles from the Kremlin 1612. Dutch Moscow map. Middle of the 17th century. Streletsky Revolt 1698. Russian Empire. In 1712, the status of the capital of Russia was transferred to St. Petersburg. In 1728, at Peter II, the imperial yard, which was here till 1732, when Anna Ionovna returned it back to St. Petersburg, was transferred to Moscow. Moscow kept the status of the first throned capital and was the place of a crowning of emperors. Conferred a title, it is applied to underlining of historical seniority of Moscow, a city in which the throne of the Russian Tsar for the first time appeared. An F.A. Brockhaus and I.A. Efron's dictionary, Moscow is called the first throned capital of Russia. S. 1. A Jagavan N. by Shvedova's explanatory dictionary treats the word first throned as designation of the oldest capital. The term is widely applied in all spheres of public life as a synonym and the unofficial name of Moscow now. In 1755, Mikhail Lomonosov and Ivan Shuvalov, by order of the Empress Elizabeth, founded the Moscow University. During Patriotic War of 1812, Moscow was captured by Napoleon's troops and strongly suffered from the fire. By different estimates, as a result of the Moscow fire, about 80% of buildings burned down. Process of restoration of Moscow lasted more than 30 years. The Cathedral of Christ the Savior was built. By the end of the 19th century, in Moscow the tram appeared. In 1851, railway communication of Moscow with St. Petersburg was open. In 1896, during the actions dated for a crowning of the Emperor Nicholas II on Hdinsky Pole, there was a large crush with a significant amount of the victims, which received the name Hdinsky tragedy. In December 1905, in Moscow, there were revolutionary disorders and street barricade fights. In the middle of August 1917, in Moscow, there took place the All-Russian State meeting convened by provisional government. On October 25. On November 1917, along with the beginning of storm of the Winter Palace in Petrograd, the Moscow armed revolt of Bolsheviks, to which, unlike a revolt in Petrograd, in Moscow persistent resistance was shown, began. Opponents of a revolt, among whom prevailed the cadet of the Moscow military colleges, united in Committee of Public Security and occupied the Kremlin to counteract forwards. Opposition came to the end with bloody fights between cadets and Red Guards who proceeded in the city since October 25 on November 15, 1917, and led to damages of the historic center of Moscow and the Kremlin by firing of artillery. In 1918, the government of Bolsheviks moves to Moscow from Petrograd, and Moscow becomes the capital of Rus. At the beginning of the second half of 1919, the anti-Bolshevist organizations of Moscow, run by the National Center, perform attempts to organize a revolt in the city for the purpose of overthrow of the Soviet power, which fail. Many members of the underground anti-Soviet organizations of Moscow are shot by bodies of Cheka during the actions of Red Terror. Within the campaign to Moscow, Sire in October 1919 approached Moscow on 280 km. Motsensk. Bolsheviks prepared in transition to a legal status and began evacuation to Vologda. However, their strike group managed to put wide successful counterstroke near Oryol. The coat of arms of Moscow during the Soviet period. With a victory of Bolsheviks in 1920 in civil war, a new, Soviet era in development of the city began. In Soviet period, Moscow became the center of the state again. The international political value of the city increased. Moscow was built up in Haiger, the former suburbs joined the city. At the same time, historical building of the downtown underwent selective destruction. A number of temples and monasteries, among which were the Cathedral of Christ the Savior, Passionate the monastery, was destroyed. In 1922, Moscow became the capital of the USSR. In the city, fast development of transport infrastructure began. So, in 1924 in Moscow the bus movement opened, in 1933 the first trolleybus route was started, and in 1935 for passengers the first line of the subway opened. After putting into operation of the Moscow Canal and a raising of water level in the Moscow River, a part of the urban area near the Moscow River, it was flooded. In particular, underwater the former Dorogomilovsky sites and adjoining Jewish cemeteries left. The resolution of Presidium of Vievek, about education in the territory of Rusfers of Administrative Territorial Associations of Regional and Regional Value, of January 14, 1929 since October 1, 1929 formed Central Industrial Area with the center in the city of Moscow. In 1931 two large cities of Rusfers, Moscow on June 16, and Leningrad on December, were allocated in separate administrative units, the cities of Republican subordination of Rusfers. In the years of industrialization in Moscow, the network of the highest and average technical educational institutions in high gear develops. In the 1930th years in Moscow, the whole network of research and design institutes of a technical profile was created. The vast majority of them was a part of the system of Academy of Sciences of the USSR. At this time in the city, Massachusetts media also develop. Many newspapers are issued. Since 1939, regular television broadcasting is organized. At this time, the master plan of reconstruction of Moscow, assuming radical reorganization of all city and its municipal economy, is realized. On the place of the destroyed Cathedral of Christ the Savior, the biggest building in the world, the Palace of Councils begins to be under construction. However, because of war, plans for its construction were not fated to come true. The population grows at prompt rates. If in 1917 it made 1,854,400 people, then in 1939, 4,215,532 people. During the Great Patriotic War, in the city-state treasury bills and the general staff of Raqqa were located the National Militia. Over 160,000 people was created. In the winter of 1941-42 there was the well-known Battle of Moscow, in which the Soviet troops won the first large victory over Wehrmacht from the moment of the beginning of World War II. In October 1941 the German troops rose closely to Moscow. Many industrial enterprises were evacuated. Evacuation of government agencies to Kuyabyshev began. On October 20, 1941 in Moscow the state of siege was entered. But despite it, on November 7 at Red Square the military parade from which troops went directly to the front was held. In December 1941 offensive of the German group of center armies near Moscow was stopped. As a result of successful counterattack of the Soviet troops near Moscow, the German troops were rejected from the capital. On June 24, 1945 at Red Square Victory Day parade was held. In 1952-1957 construction of the high-rise buildings which subsequently received the name of Stalin skyscrapers and which became one of symbols Moscow of the Soviet era was carried out. In 1960 the new border of Moscow on Makad, beyond which the city began to go only in 1984, was created. In the late 60s, the beginning of the 1978 years, the downtown underwent serious reorganization again. For the sake of expansion of the existing streets, constructions of new highways and standard multi-story panel-built houses were demolished. Some architectural monuments of Moscow. In 1957 and 1985 in Moscow passed respectively the 6 and 12 World Festivals of Youth and Students. In 1980 Moscow hosted the 22 Summer Olympic Games. Present. The modern coat of arms of 1993. On August 19, 22, 1991 in the city there was an August Putsch organized by Gichichichichich. By 1993 the constitutional and state crisis which resulted from opposition of the president and parliament reached the culmination. On October 3, 4, 1993 there were an attempt of capture of a television center of Ostankino, an execution of the building of the Supreme Council. White House. Then in the city there were considerable changes. In 1995 new official symbols of the capital, the coat of arms, a flag and the anthem of the city were approved. Restoration of temples, construction of the full-scale copy of the Cathedral of Christ the Savior which is blown up by Bolsheviks began. In 1977 the city for the first time faced terrorism threat. Till 2011 in Moscow there were 18 acts of terrorism. The beginning of the Ord was marked by capital architectural transformation. The city is seriously reconstructed, multi-story office buildings, modern transport infrastructure, elite housing are under construction. There was a new business center, the area Moscow City. At the same time it is noted that the construction boom leads this to destruction of historical appearance of the city, destruction of architectural monuments and the developed urban environment. This serious problem is represented by insufficiently developed transport infrastructure leading to traffic jams and congestion of public transport. Measures for creation of the allocated strips for public transport, construction of new automobile platforms and outcomes, strengthening of control of the movement. Cameras of automatic video fixing of violations, work of tow trucks. The organization of parking space, according to the mayor of Moscow, S.S. Sobyanin, led to acceleration of the movement for 12% in 2016, in comparison with the period of 5 years. Till 2010 Moscow had the status of the historical settlement, however the city of this status was deprived by the order of the Ministry of Culture of the Russian Federation of July 29, 2010 0. 418/339. From 1990 years the project of consolidation of Moscow and the Moscow region was actively discussed. In the summer of 2011 more specific project of expansion of the territory of Moscow and its decentralization due to accession of southwest territories appeared. This project, so-called New Moscow or Greater Moscow, was implemented in the summer of 2012. In 2018 Moscow among other 11 cities hosted the FIFA World Cup. To this event in the city several important sporting and infrastructure facilities are constructed. In February 2022 according to preliminary data the rating of the Index of Prosperity of the city's organization Moscow won first place by criteria development of infrastructure and quality of life. Awards. The Hero Tonnet is entitled on May 8, 1965 with delivery of the medal, Gold Star and Order of Lenin for outstanding merits before the homeland. The Massachusetts heroism. Courage and permanent shown by workers of the capital of the USSR of the city of Moscow and fight against fascist aggressors and in commemoration of the 20th anniversary of a victory of the Soviet people in the Great Patriotic War of 1941-1945. The Order of Lenin. On September 6, 1947. For outstanding merits of workers of Moscow before the homeland, for the courage and heroism shown in fight against the German aggressors, for success achieved in development of the industry, culture and implementation of the master plan of reconstruction of the city in connection with the 800th anniversary of the city of Moscow. Award of the October Revolution. On November 4, 1967. In commemoration of the 50th anniversary of Great October Socialist Revolution. Authorities. Government of Moscow. According to the Constitution of the Russian Federation, Moscow is the independent territorial subject of the Federation, the so-called Federal City. Executive power in Moscow is performed by the government of Moscow headed by the mayor. Legislative, the Moscow City Duma consisting of 45 deputies. From 2006 to 2012 direct elections of the mayor were not held in connection with changes in the charter of the city of Moscow. The mayor was appointed by instructions of the president. The first direct election since vote of 2003 had to take place after the termination of term of the acting city's mayor in 2015. However, in connection with his resignation at own will, they took place in September 2013. Control on places is exercised by means of 11 prefectures uniting the districts of Moscow in administrative districts on territorial sign and 125 district justices. According to the law about the organization of local government in the city of Moscow, since the beginning of 2003 executive bodies of local government are municipalities, representative bodies, municipal assemblies which members are elected according to the charter of the intracity municipal unit. The principles of functioning of bodies of legislative and executive power of Moscow and also local government authorities in the city are defined by the Charter of the City of Moscow and other regulations of the city. Federal authorities. In Moscow, as in the city equipped with the Constitution of the Russian Federation capital functions, there are legislative, executive and judicial federal authorities of the country, except for the Constitutional Court of the Russian Federation, which since 2008 is located in St. Petersburg. The highest executive authorities, the government of the Russian Federation, are in the Government House of the Russian Federation on Krasnoprennenskaya embankment in the center of Moscow. The State Duma sits on Okhotny Ryad. The Federation Council is located in the building on Bolshaya Dmitrovka. The Supreme Court of the Russian Federation also is in Moscow. Besides, the Moscow Kremlin is the official residence of the President of the Russian Federation. The working residence of the President in the Kremlin is located in the building of the Senatorial Palace. Administrative districts of Moscow. 1. Central Administrative District. 2. Northern Administrative District. 3. Northeastern Administrative Okrug. 4. Eastern Administrative District. 5. Southeastern Administrative Okrug. 6. Southern Administrative District. 7. Southwestern Administrative District. 8. Western Administrative District. 9. Northwestern Administrative District. 10. Zelenograd Administrative District. 11. Novomoskovsk Administrative District. 12. Troitsk Administrative District. Territorial changes of Moscow from 1922 to 1995. Territorial units of Moscow are the areas, settlements and administrative districts having the names and borders fixed by legal acts of the city. The administrative district, the territorial unit of the city of Moscow formed for managerial control by the respective territory, includes several areas of the settlements of Moscow. Borders of the administrative district cannot cross borders of areas and settlements. The area is formed taking into account historical, geographical, town planning features of the respective territories, population, social and economic characteristics, arrangement of transport communications, availability of engineering infrastructure and other features of the territory. The settlement, the territorial unit of Moscow formed in the territories included in structure of Moscow and the project progress on expansion of its territory since July 1, 2012. Education, transformation and abolition of areas and settlements, assignment of names by it, establishment and change of their borders are performed by the Moscow City Duma on representation of the Mayor of Moscow, and administrative districts, the Mayor of Moscow. Till July 1, 2012 in Moscow there were 125 areas and 10 administrative districts. Since July 1, 2012, after expansion of the territory of Moscow, 2 new administrative districts, Novomoskovsk and Troitsk, and in their structure 21 settlements were formed. Moscow is divided into 12 administrative districts. Central, Northern, Northeast, East, Southeast, Southern, Southwest, Western, Northwest, Zelenograd, Novomoskovsk, Troitsk. The last 3 are completely located outside Moscow. Zelenograd Administrative District is an exclave. From all directions it is surrounded with the territory of the Moscow region. In the southeast borders on the city district Khimki, in all other directions, on the Solnykhnagorsk district of the Moscow region. In turn, the districts of Moscow, except Novomoskovsk and Troitsk, are divided into areas, all in Moscow 125 areas. Several districts of Moscow are exclaves. Control of districts is exercised by district prefectures, of areas, district justices. The Novomoskovsk and Troitsk districts consist of such new territorial units of Moscow as settlements. In borders of these settlements such intracity municipal units as the settlement and the city district are created. Districts are under the administration of the General Prefecture. The coat of arms and flag of Moscow represent a dark red heraldic board and a rectangular panel with the image of the rider. The St. George is the victorious striking a black serpent. The anthem of the city of Moscow is the musical and poetic work created on the basis of the song by Isaac Osipovich Dunievsky on Mark Samoyevich Lysyansky and Sergei Ivanovich Agranyan's verses, My Moscow. Population. The population of Moscow is 12,632,409 people. 2022. According to Rosstat, 8.6% of the population of Russia live in Moscow. According to the Rospizhny list, the census book of the city of Moscow of 1638. In 1638 in Moscow there lived about 200,000 people. By the beginning of the 18th century the population of Moscow decreased a little and according to Revizzi fairy tales was in 1710 about 160,000 people, in 1725, 150,000, in 1740, 138.4 thousand, in 1776, 161,000 people. Before the War of 1812 in Moscow there lived 270,000 people, and after its termination minus 215,000. As a result of a migration gain in the middle of the 19th century the population of Moscow increased. In 1840, 349.1 thousand people, in 1856, 368.8 thousand, in 1868, 416.4 thousand people. There is a complexity in determination of number of the Moscow megalopolis depending on approaches to determination of its borders. Consider only the next suburbs. A residential suburb in a radius of 60, 70 km from Makadar, all Moscow capital region. Makakar. Depending on the limitation, the number of the Moscow megalopolis for the beginning of 2008 was estimated at 13-15 million people at population and administrative borders of Moscow and 10.5 million people. 7.4% of the population of Russia. Now the migration gain is the most active goes not in Moscow, and in the belt of the cities next to Moscow, and areas of the Moscow region. Specialists argue whether this process is the beginning of a suburbanization or, on the contrary, extensive expansion of Moscow on new territories. Moscow, the largest city of Russia by the number of inhabitants and the most inhabited from the cities which are completely in Europe B. The Moscow pronunciation is произносительный regulation of the Russian literary language. On the mode of reproduction of the population, Moscow is close to the European capitals, but on the number and population density is close to the overpopulated capital centers of developing countries. On the square Moscow, it is close to Berlin, New York, Greater London and Greater Paris. Population density of Moscow is comparable with Tehran, Kinshasa, Manila. Less population density of Mumbai, Bogota, Lima. Accounting of migrants. Permanent growth of the population of Moscow is explained generally by inflow of the population from other regions. Official data on the population of the city consider only constantly living citizens. According to management of EMS across Moscow, in 2008 official accounting registered 1,800,000 more visitors. Labor migrants and guest workers, students and others. And also in the city, according to the experts for 2009, there are about 1 million more unregistered migrants. By results of the All-Russian Population Census of 2002, the population of Moscow was 10,382,754 people. According to official figures, the current statistical recording, the population of the city for September 1, 2012 made 11,911.1 thousand people. On preliminary results of a census of 2010 for October 2010, 11,643,060 people constantly live in Moscow and only 30,000 people temporarily stay in the capital. 1.2 million Muscovites for various reasons refused to participate in a census. The Moscow Department of the Federal Migration Service reported that in Moscow 60,000 people have permanent registration, temporary registration minus 1,100,000 people stand on migration registration, also 340,000 foreigners. From 600 to 800,000 Russian citizens, by estimates of specialists of the Office of the Federal Migration Service, live in Moscow without registration in bodies of EMS. Birth rate. Moscow has special model of birth rate owing to the following reasons. Special social structure of the population in the form of a big share of people with the higher education and level of income, a high migration gain, higher in comparison with other Russia, mainly in the form of the young population with a high reproductive potential developed by social infrastructure in the form of high quality and availability of services of healthcare and education. The total diagnosed of visitors is higher than Moscow born and bred. For more years the birth rate grew in Moscow, and more in high gear in comparison with other Russia. In 10 years from 1999 to 2009 in Moscow she grew up by 1.73 times, whereas across Russia in general by 1.45 times. In Moscow not only residents of Moscow, but also non-residents give birth that overestimates birth rate indicators in statistics among Muscovites. On language structure, in 1881 a share of the Muscovites speaking Russian minus 95.6%, and in 1882, 94.5%. On Polish minus 0.60 and 0.60%, Finnish minus 0.02 and 0.05%, Latvian minus 0.03 and 0.03%, Lithuanian minus 0.06 and 0.03%, Hebrew minus 0.94 and 1.61%, Tatar minus 0.15 and 0.24%, Armenian minus 0.10 and 0.12%, French minus 0.34 and 0.29%, German minus 1.82 and 2.02%, English minus 0.12 and 0.10%, Italian minus 0.03 and 0.02%, Dutch minus 0.01 and 0.00%, In other languages -0.04 and 0.04%, did not answer this question -0.14%. On a census of 1897, in the city there lived representatives of the following people. Russians -987,000, 95%. Germans, about 18,000. Poles, 9,000. Jews, about 5,000. Tatars, 4.3 thousand. On a census 1926, Russians in Moscow there were 1772,000 people, 87.4%. Jews -131,000, 6.5%. Tatars -171,000 and Ukrainians -161,000. During the period from 1912 to 1926 the share of Russians decreased by 7.8%. In 1912, 95.3%. The share of Germans was reduced by 0.9%, Poles for 0.2%, but the number of Jews increased by 6.1%. Ukrainians for 0.6%. Tatars, Latvians, Armenians for 0.3%. From 1926 to 1939 the share of Russians did not change. The share of Jews, from 6.5 was slightly reduced to 6%, but the specific weight of Ukrainians increased from 0.8 to 2.2%, Tatars, from 0.8 to 1.4%, Armenians, from 0.2 to 0.3%. From 1939 to 1959 the specific weight of Russians increased from 87.4 to 89.5%. The specific weight of Jews decreased from 6.0 to 4.1%. The share of Germans, Poles, representatives of the people of the Baltics, Mordva, Azerbaijanians, Georgians went down, but the share of Tatars to 1.5%. Ukrainians and Belarusians increased. From 1970 to 1989 the share of Russians from 89.2 increased to 89.7%. Ukrainians from 2.6 to 2.8%. Tatars from 1.6 to 1.8%. Belarusians, the people of the Caucasus, Central Asia, Mordva, Chuvash, but the share of Jews from 3.6 to 2%. The people of the Baltics was reduced. In 1989 in Moscow lived Russians -7,963,246, Ukrainians -252,670, Jews -174,728, Tatars -157,376, Belarusians -73005. Armenians -43989, Mordva -30916, Azerbaijanians -20727, Georgians -19608, Juvishs -18358, Uzbeks -9183. Kazakhs -8225, Ossetians -7270, Moldavians -6997, Poles -6920, Bashkirs -5417, Germans -4670, Latvians -3896, Koreans -3693, Greeks -3586, Lithuanians -3243. Assyrians -3196,
Kyrgyz -3044, Tajiks -2893.
Bulgarians -2641, Admirts -2600, Meres -2490, Lesgians -2434, Chechens -2101, Turkmens -2093, Estonians -1801, Avars -1706, Buryats -1496, Tats -1292, Abkhazians -1286, Roma -1284, Kabardians -1275, Arabs -1261, Karelians -1245, Spaniards -1219, Komizirians -1141, Vietnamese -1052, Laks -913, Dargins -891, Hungarians -838, Montan Jews -776, Yakuts -771, Kumyks -727, Ingichs -685, Karachays -624. Czechs -605, Cubans -597, Adides -490, Finns -471, Karakalpaks -402, Bulgars -399, Circassians -374, Chinese -372, Gagauz -352, Caucas -316, Komi-Permiaks -307, Mongols -301, Karats -283, Romanians -270, Afghans -263, the Crimean Tatars -239, Italians -235, Serbians -227, representatives of the people of India and Pakistan -223, Kurds -209, Tuvinians -195, Slovaks -159, Uyghurs -159, Abazans -145. Turks -137, Persians -126, the French -117, other ethno-dispersed groups only 42. It is no more than 100 people.
From 1989 to 1994, the share of Russians from 89.7% increased to 90.5%. The share of Tatars increased from 1.8 to 1.9%, Armenians from 0.5 to 0.7%, but the share of Ukrainians from 2.8 to 2.4%, Belarusians from 0.8 to 0.7%, and Jews from 2 to 1.5% decreased.
After the collapse of the USSR, the amount of illegal migration sharply grew. Therefore, to obtain reliable data about the ethno-confessional list of Muscovites very difficult. For example, according to the experts Ministry of Internal Affairs in 2002, in the 9 million then capital was from 0.9 to 3 million illegal migrants. According to experts, the number of some ethnic groups changed in several, and in certain cases in tens of times. It is about Transcaucasian, Armenians, Azerbaijanians, Georgians, Central Asian, Tajiks, the Tajik Roma, kicks in the butt, Afghans, South Asian, Chinese, Koreans, ethnic groups, construction workers from Moldova and from Ukraine, and also inhabitants of the republics of the North Caucasus, especially Chechens and Dagestanis.
Unlike the West, in Moscow there are no pronounced areas of ethnic resettlement, though according to the capital press in the southwest of Moscow, Armenians, mainly lodge in Izmailovo, Azerbaijanians, in Mariina Rozhcha, Georgians, in Archakova and around the Avtozavodskaya subway, Chinese, in regions of the subway, Savyalovskaya, Domodevovskaya, Planonaya, natives of Southeast Asia.
In the next Moscow area in housing estates, Tajiks, and the Tajik Roma. Kicks in the butt. Put camps around the Moscow Ring Highway. From 1989 to 2002, the ethnic structure of Moscow changed as follows.
The share of Russians decreased from 89.7% in 1989 to 84.8% in 2002, Ukrainians, from 2.8% to 2.4%, Tatars, from 1.8% to 1.6%, Jews, from 2.0% to 0.8%, but the share of Armenians, from 0.5% at the same time increased to 1.2%, Azerbaijanians, from 0.2% to 0.9%, Georgians, from 0.2% to 0.5%. The national structure of the population of Moscow, according to a population census of 2002 and a population census of 2010, is distributed as follows. Russians -9,930,410, 91.65%. Ukrainians -154,104, 1.42%. Tatars -149,043, 1.38%. Armenians -106,466, 0.98%. Azerbaijanians -57123, 0.53%. Jews -53142, 0.49%. Belarusians -39225, 0.36%. Georgians -38934, 0.36%. Uzbeks -35595, 0.33%. Tajiks -27280, 0.25%. Moldavians -21699, 0.20%. Kyrgyz -18736, 0.17%. Imordva -17095, 0.16%. Chechens -14524, 0.13%. Chuvash -14313, 0.13%. Ossetians -11311, 0.10%. The persons who did not specify nationality -668,409, 5.81%. The percent of Russians in Moscow exceeds an average value across Russia, 80%. Also, shares of Armenians and Jews are higher in comparison with average Russian, 0.78% and 0.16% respectively. The share of Russians increased from the moment of the census of 1989 when they made 89.7%. Economy. Moscow, the financial center, largest in the all-Russian scale, the international business center and control center of the most part of national economy. So, for example, in Moscow about a half of banks from among registered in Russia is concentrated. Besides, the most part of the largest companies are registered and have the central offices in Moscow, though their production can be located for thousands of kilometers from it. As of November 2019, from 200 largest enterprises of the country, 104 are registered in Moscow. Moscow, the large center. The registered headquarters, but not a prozodstvo. Mechanical engineering, including power plant engineering, Stanko, Pseudo, instrument making. Ferrous and non-ferrous metallurgy. Production of aluminum alloys. Chemical, light printing industry. However, the tendency to change of legal addresses. Tax registration of large producers is observed recently.
As of 2008 on DDD amount. $321 billion. Moscow was in the 15th place among the largest cities of the world. The most powerful Russian carrier rocket Proton is developed and is made on Khrunichev State Research and Production Space Center. Made-29, developed and made by Rakhmake. Industrial production for 2007 in Moscow grew by 11.5%. In the territory of the city, a significant amount of the enterprises of defense industry, among them works. State Research and Production Space Center of M5. Khrunichev. Production of the Rakhmake Company. A third of fighters of the Air Force of the Russian Federation are developed and Rakhmake is made. The headquarters. The enterprises of Almaz Anti-Air Defense Concern. The largest Almaz Altair Avangard. The headquarters and some scientific research institutes. Tushino Engineering Works, the bankrupt. Raketroitel de AATB, Pennant. Chernishev Moscow Machine Building Enterprise. From civil productions, the largest. Moscow Oil Refinery, the large producer, including for export oil products. Avtofromos, the enterprise for assembly of the Renault cars, about 60,000 a year, in the territory of the former Azak. Renault Logan gathers on Avtofromosa. The Volvo Philly truck with the advertising Rostishki near the Belarusian station. The Electroplant, the large producer of electric transformers and reactors. Moscow Electroboard, the producer of electric distributing devices. The Karakorovsky Mechanical Plant, production of lifting equipment. Moskobel Plant. Moscow Neftemeslozavod. Fremantle Manufactory, the bankrupt. Moscow Shipbuilding and Ship Repair Plant. Moscow Chemical Pharmaceuticals of N.A. Samashko. Red October. Confectionery. It is closed, production is postponed for the territory of the Babaevo Confectionery. Moscow Exchange. In the city there is a strong scientific and technology base on production optico and radio-electronic devices, the aviation and space equipment, high-precision mechanical devices. Moscow is the engineering center, largest in the country. A considerable part of the Russian products is projected here. Especially aviation, space, nuclear and arms. Technologies of its production are developed, materials are investigated. Retail turnover in 2007 was 2,040.3 billion rubles. Growth in relation to 2006, 5.1%. The wholesale turnover in turn was 7,843.2 billion rubles. Growth by 2006-22. 3%. The amount of paid services to the population minus 815.85 billion rubles. These are 24% of the amount of services in all Russia. According to the Ernst & Young Company for 2011, Moscow takes the 7th place among the European cities on investment attractiveness, and its rating grows. In the city 6 mobile operators, 3 of whom provide services in the Ganzem amts, 3G, and lead standards. Mint Megafan Beeling. Work. 1 in the amts and lead standards. Tele remain to provide the wireless internet in elite standard. Toyota and Skylink. Both of these operators are not independent and belong to MegaFon and Tele, respectively. Based on networks of some of above-mentioned operators, virtual operators work. According to 2011, the magazine Forbes, Moscow takes 180th place among the cities of the world on number of dollar billionaires. 79 people. The Foreign Policy magazine puts Moscow in 2010 on the 25th place of global cities, making a significant contribution to development of a world civilization. Nevertheless, on the cost of living index counted Rosstat in 2011, Moscow was not the most expensive city of Russia, having conceded to a number of the Siberian and northern cities. In 2012, Moscow took the first place in the rating of quality of the urban environment made by the Ministry of Regional Development of the Russian Federation, the Russian Union of Engineers, Federal Construction and Housing and Communal Services Agency, Federal Service for the Oversight of Consumer Protection and Welfare, and also Lomonosov Moscow State University. In 2018, Moscow hosted 12 matches of the FIFA World Cup that became the additional driver of economy of infrastructure. In 2018, the enterprises of small and medium business filled up the budget of Moscow for 473 billion rubles. Since 2015, the total amount of tax revenues from them increased by 46%. According to the mayor of Moscow, Sergei Sobyanin, growth of small business is caused by the fact that in Moscow infrastructure necessary for it is created. Available lease of rooms and inexpensive internet. Transport. Moscow, the largest transport hub of the country. The city is in the center of a web of the railroads and federal highways. The amount of passenger traffic in the Moscow transport hub by assessment for 2013 is 11.5 billion people. In the city, many types of public transport are developed. Since 1935, the subway works. Public transport, 76% of passenger traffic are performed. Railway transport. The Leningrad Station, the oldest station of Moscow, was built in 1849 for service of the Nikolov Railroad. Main item. Moscow Railway Junction. The railway system in Moscow is provided by 10 main directions with 10 stations. From 8 stations, Belarusian, Kazan, Kursk, Kiev, Leningrad, Paveletsky, Riga and Yaroslavl, both the suburban and distant messages performed. The Savilovsky station serves only suburban transportations, and east only distant transportations. The Moscow District Railroad. Several connecting branches and a number of branches, generally single line, rather small length, the main part of which completely is within the city. All railroads of Moscow belong to the Moscow Railway, except the Leningrad direction relating to Oktябrskaya Railway, which enters the Moscow Railway Junction 2, has at this serves with some directions of the Moscow Railway. At the same time, the prices and rules of payment of journey in local electric trains are identical on all directions without exception, according to rules of the Moscow Railway. In the 1990th, the odd years, a number of the branch lines servicing industrial enterprises was closed in connection with withdrawal of these enterprises from the city, a serious production cutback. Total length of the railroads in city boundaries -394. 7 km.
The local trains connecting stations of Moscow with settlements Moscow and nearby areas play an essential role in intracity transportations.
The organization on the small ring of the Moscow Railway of the line of passenger railway transport, which is partially integrated with the subway which received the name Moscow Central Ring, became the large project on development of passenger train traffic in Moscow.
The new similar project developing the principle of integration of rail transportation with the subway are the Moscow Central diameters, the first two from which opened in November 2019. Air transport. In the territory of Moscow there are international airports Vnukovo and Ostafivo. Also, inhabitants and city visitors use services of other international airports located in the territory of the Moscow region. Domodedovo, Kokolovsky, Sheremetyevo, Shukovsky.
In 1933, 2010 aircrafts of civil aviation were accepted by the Bykovo Airport, which is nowadays used only as departmental helicopter port.
It is possible to reach the airports not only on motor transport, but also having used the expresses going from railway stations.
Kiev to Vnukovo Airport, Belarusian to Sheremetyevo Airport and Paveletsky to Domodedovo Airport.
The air terminal near the Hadinsky field worked in the city, however since the beginning of the 21st century it, actually, lost the direct appointment. Its spaces were leased to tenants under floor spaces. In November 2017 the former building of air terminal was demolished. Motor transport. Pisanovsky outcome on my card. The first and at the moment only 5-level traffic intersection in Russia. Moscow is the center of network of federal highways of various directions which connect the capital to the administrative centers of territorial subjects of the Russian Federation and the cities of the adjacent states. In Moscow there is developed transport infrastructure containing in particular 3 transport rings. Garden, the third transport in the Moscow Automobile Ring Road. Mar is planned construction of the Central Ring Road. Kari in Moscow area for unloading of the city from transit traffic flow. Traffic jams. Since 1990th years Moscow faced an acute transport issue. In Moscow rapid growth of fleet of vehicles continues. If in 2000 in the city there were 2.6 million cars, then 2012 already 4.5 million. Over 380 cars on 1,000 inhabitants. The average annual growth expected an indicator till 2020, 4%. Also the amount of freight transportation by the motor transport in the city increased. In a year through Moscow about 10 billion T of freights are transported, from them about 4 billion T are the share of transit cargo transportation. Significant growth in vehicle fleet led to emergence of a large number of road jams. Some measures for reduction of number of traffic jams, such as ban on entry into the city of heavy trucks, construction of new outcomes were taken. Traffic jams involve huge losses. Growth of traffic jams was promoted by town planning mistakes. The city government made a number of attempts to resolve a problem of traffic jams by road construction. So the ring highway was reconstructed, the third ring road is built, in 2008 construction of the fourth ring began. In 2016 for increase in speed of the movement on roads the adaptive system of operation of traffic lights was introduced.
Automatic switching of the traffic light modes depends on load of the route. Such systems act on 4 highways: Kvietnitsky Highway, Svoboda Street, Shermativskaya Street and Altafififivskoye Highway. By the end of the year, the number of highways with an automatic management system traffic lights increased to 20. In 2017, there was a narrowing of strips on Kashirskoye Highway from Proletarsky Avenue to Borisovsky Pond Street. It allowed to make 5 strips, instead of 4. According to Moscow Department of Transport, in April 2016 in rush hours the passability of this site was 3.7 thousand cars, after expansion increased by 19%. 4,000. Narrowing happened also on the intersection of Vernadsky Avenue and Troparyovskaya Street. The intensity of a stream increased by 15% from 3.5 thousand cars to 4.1 thousand. Number of strips increased on the section of Lipetskaya Street of Makad to the Lipetsk overpass. The passability increased by 33%. Changes affected also Kashirsky, Altafifivsky, Vorobyovsky, Besiniskoye Highway, the Volgograd and Leningrad Avenues, Big Tula, Lipetsk, Lublin and Wide Streets, Desnev Drive. Several new turns and turns for reduction of rerun are created. Since the beginning of 2018 from roads of the Northern Administrative District and from Makad earned the additional information monitors broadcasting messages about traffic congestion, restrictions of the movement, installation of new cameras of photo-video fixing, need of observance of traffic regulations, estimated time of a way to the next points. To Makad, the third ring road. The stolen cars, weather conditions. Parking. There is unresolved a problem of insufficient number of parkings. In September 2010, the head of Department of Transport and Communication Vasily Kachefi reported that, in the city there are 250,000 parking spaces while 1.2 million cars need places. Earlier there were attempts of introduction of paid parkings on city streets, however the decision according to which cars can be parked along roadsides free of charge was made on September 10, 2008. Paid were parkings at stations, at the airports and in several specially allocated areas of the city center. For the problem resolution in residential areas, the National Garage Program was organized, however its realization drags on. In 2012, to the project of the organization of paid parkings, it was decided to return. According to the authorities, the solution of a transport problem is promoted by the substantial increase of penalties for abuse of regulations of the parking entered since July 2012, input of the parking charge on streets of the central part of the city. 2. Administrator of the Moscow Parking Space. AEPS. Became the organization which is responsible for paid municipal parkings. From November 1, 2012 to February 28, 2013 on streets Petrovka and Karany Ryad and also on adjacent lanes the first paid parkings were entered. The payment for use of the parking space for an hour made 50 rubles. The parking in the yards was free. On June 1, 2013 paid parkings in the Boulevard Ring began to appear. Parking cost in this zone was 50 rubles. Since December 5, 2013 parking cost in the Boulevard Ring increased up to 80 rubles. Since the end of 2013 the paid parking zone extended to the Garden Ring. The price of the parking space in this zone was 60 rubles an hour. Since June 1, 2014, paid parkings appeared around Moscow city. In this zone in Moscow, the progressive tariff was for the first time applied. The cost of the first 2 hours of the parking was 80 rubles, in each next hour minus 130 rubles. Since August 2014, the zone of a paid parking extended to the Third Ring Road, including house adjoining territories. Yards. The zone of expansion included streets of the following areas: Krasnensky, Arbat, Tver, Dorogomilovo and Komovniki. Since September 2014, in the center of Moscow, parking spaces were equipped. In the territory of paid zones, the free parking was reserved large families and disabled people, and also motorcycles and electric vehicles. On December 25, 2014, in the Third Ring Road, the new zone of paid parkings was organized. The paid parking appeared on 405 streets in the following areas: Komovniki, Tver, Runin, Horozyovsky, Airport, Savilovsky, Marina Roshcha, Petty Bourgeois, Krasnoselsky, Basmany, Tagansky, Southport, Zamoskvochi, Yakimanka, Donskoy, Danilovsky, Lefortovo. Since August 10, 2015, on 75 streets in the Boulevard Ring, the progressive tariff for the parking was entered. For the round-the-clock free parking, it is possible to purchase the subscription, and for inhabitants of houses who live in houses in paid parking zones, preferential terms are provided. In 2017, the Netherlands company TomM handed to Moscow an award for the organization of parking space following the results of the annual report of Traffic Index on influence of jams. After input of a modern management system by parkings in the city, time of search of the parking space decreased by 65%. According to data of the company, in 2013 Moscow won first place among the cities with the most loaded roads, in 2015 the 5th, and in 2016 the capital took the 13th position. In Moscow, the system of car sharing, short-term lease of the car with constant or hourly tariffing, works. Car sharing is an alternative to the privately owned vehicle. By means of this service, it is possible to reduce transport density on roads and parking space. According to Department of Transport, one car in the system of car sharing is capable to replace 10 personnel. The cost of lease of the car depends on the operator, averages 7-11 rubles in a minute. The benefit of car sharing consists that it is not necessary to spend funds for the parking, gasoline, a sink of the car and its contents. As of 2020, the Moscow car sharing are a part of the system of 8 operators: Velomobil, U-Drive, Belkacar, RentMe, Liftcar, Roundabout, Yandex Drive, Matreshikar. The first car-sharing device service in the capital was offered in 2013 by the Citycar company, which left under the Anytime brand. Since 2017, the Moscow Department of Transport subsidizes car-sharing device companies. Land City Transport. In Moscow, the extensive network of street public transport works. Routes of buses, electrobus, trams, share taxis which transport about 12 million passengers daily. Some routes working at night. At the beginning of the 20th century in Moscow, the tram network actively developed. In the early 30s it covered both boulevard and garden rings and all streets connecting them. Lines and on the outskirts were laid. After opening in 1935 of the first lines of the subway, the tram lines coinciding with them in the direction were removed. More radical changes took place in the 1940th years when some tram routes were replaced with trolleybus and are removed from the Kremlin. To 1960, the 1970th years lines in the western part of the city were liquidated and the tram rings are broken off.
Since the beginning of the 1980th years, construction of new lines was almost not conducted. The last in 1981-82 years built the line in Strogino. The new wave of removal of tram lines and closing of the depot generally adjacent to the center began with the middle of the 1990th. Partial restoration of some lines began with the 2010th. Till August 2020 in Moscow, the network of trolleybuses, many years the world's largest, worked. Trolleybus transport was partially replaced with electrobus, partially buses.
The formal reason of closing: release of streets from the hanging contact network, physical deterioration of the park of trolleybuses, and technical obsolescence of the concept of trolleybus transport.
Now in the city there is only one museum route which stretched from Komsomolskaya Square to Elikovskaya. Public transport is often forced to get stuck in the general traffic jams, but on large highways the allocated strips are created. The front allocated page is open in July 2009 on Volokholamsk Highway, in 2011 on Shyolkuskoy Highway, Yaroslavskoy Highway, Andropov Avenue and Leningradsky Avenue. As of July 2020, 65 allocated strips with a total length of 350.82 km are put into operation. There is also an updating of the rolling stock of trams and buses. They become low floor in order that in them it was more convenient to disabled people and people to pass with carriages. Since 2014 inland public transportation of bicycles is resolved. On October 8, 2016 the first stage of route network, Magistral, was officially started. It is the program of optimization of route network of public transport in the central regions of the city. Routes of Magistral network connect the center, avenues and the outskirts of Moscow. The majority of routes are the changed existing flights. The project is implemented by Moscow Department of Transport. On October 7, 2017 the second last turn of Magistral is started. Since the beginning of 2017 the allocated strips on Vozdyenka and on Shratenka are open thanks to what the movement on some routes of network accelerated. Changes became more convenient. The big transfer knot at Slavyanskaya Square is constructed. Long transfer pavilions with personal places of landing for each route began to appear. Stops are equipped with the charging set for gadgets and free Wi-Fi. Near exits from the subway there were indexes of stops. At stops, cards of Magistral network which are highlighted in nighttime.
In November 2017 the Moscow Department of Transport began process of the equipment of land transport with validators with contactless payment of journey.
For contactless payment passengers can use the bank cards supporting PayPass and PayWave technologies and also smartphones with the Google Pay, Apple or Samsung Pay function. At such payment method journey will make 40 rubles, that is 15 rubles cheaper than purchase of the transport card from the driver. The number of routes on which it is possible to pay journey by means of the bank card constantly grows. Since May 15, 1935 in Moscow the subway, which is a fixed asset of movement within the capital, works. On average the Moscow subway transports 6.498 million passengers a day. by data for 2016. It is the sixth in annual passenger traffic system of the subway in the world and the first in Europe. Total length of lines of Moscow Metro -408.1 km. The most part of A-way and stations is underground. On the extent of lines, the Moscow Metro takes the fourth place in the world. In total, as of September 2020, 232 stations and 14 lines. Without a monorail, Matsk and Amts work in the Moscow subway. Many metro stations are monuments of architecture. Since old years of the line of the subway, Makad began to go beyond.
Since October 14, 2013 in Moscow Metro, the center of ensuring mobility for assistance to citizens with limited opportunities in movement.
Handicapped citizens with a hearing disorder, sight, functions of the musculoskeletal device, citizens of a socialnerve categories, and also organized groups of passengers functions, including children's groups up to 11 years. Maintenance is performed on all route. An entrance on the station, movement in the elevator, on ladders, escalators and platforms of stations, in cars of trains, at the exit from the station.
In 2018, Moscow Metro, together with Just Moscow Media and Moscow Department of Transport and Road Infrastructure Development, started the system of online informing passengers by means of the screens installed in cars of trains. Information on changes in work of public transport is displayed. In case of an emergency situation, the message on a bright yellow background and an algorithm of actions of passengers appears in each case.
By September 2018, it is going to equip 1896 cars with 8720 screens. To the FIFA World Cup of 2018 in Moscow Metro and on Matsk carried out the large-scale program for navigation updating. Special badges noted Spartak Stadium and the big sports arena of Luzhniki, the venue of a festival of fans, and the city booking center. In May 2018 in the subway, the card, free, and charms with function, free, which design is devoted to the World Cup, appeared. The Russian tricolor and the soccer ball flying in gate. Since 2004 the monorail road. It is designated by serial number 13, which operation is conducted by Forces SU Moscow Metro Works. Moscow Central Ring. On September 10, 2016, passenger traffic on the Moscow Central Ring. MK Moscow Railway, which since 1934 was used only for freight and transit transportation, opened. The line is the railway ring consisting of 31 stations, but is positioned as the full-fledged 14th line of the subway. The nature of the movement on the Moscow Central Ring represents the city electric train, which is partially integrated with Moscow Metro. Changes in a pay system of journey. Also, Moscow Central Ring is integrated with the suburban directions of trains for what some railway stations transfer directly to Matsk stations.
Big Ring Line.
On February 26, 2018, opening of the first
Northwest
part of the Big Ring Line, future the second underground ring Moscow Metro, took place, to complete the construction of the remaining sites, and is going to close the line in a ring by the end of 2022. Since 2018, works on construction of the transport hubs (TH) on the Big Ring Line are conducted. In total, it is going to construct 22 PU. As of April 2018, transition between the Shelepika station of Mkskiel and the Matsk of the same name station already works. The parking and stops of land public transport will also be a part of TPU, a multi-purpose complex with trade rooms and offices. TPU, Ryazan, will become the following node which will unite Mkskiel and Matsk stations. Passengers will also be able to change on the Nekrasovsky branch, the Gorky direction of the Moscow Railway or land transport. River transport. Thanks to the system of the canals built as a part of great buildings of communism, Moscow from Soviet period was known as Port of Five Seas, Baltic, White, Caspian, Azov and Black. From northern and southern river stations the cruise motor ships connecting Moscow to St. Petersburg, Astrakhan, Rostov-on-Don and other cities of Russia go. During navigation on the Moscow River several routes of the river bus work. Cargo moorings are available in northern, western and southern river ports. Freight river transportation across the Moscow River generally provides delivery of various bulk cargoes of construction character. In the southern port there is large container terminal. Bicycle transport. According to the statistics, in Moscow more than 3.5 million bicycles. However, the first bicycle track appeared in the capital only in 2011. By 2013 the extent of cycle routes reached 100 kilometers, including many kilometers routes such as from Barclay Street through the Philly Park to the Krylatskoye metro station. 8 km. And from the Park Museum to Victory Park. 16 km. In the summer the city cycle rolling stations sponsored by Bank of Moscow and also private rolling services work. Uniform City bicycle rental began work in Moscow in 2013. Then 79 points on the Boulevard Ring and on Frunzenskaya embankment were organized. Annually till 2019 about 50 new stations and 500 bicycles are added to network. As of 2018 in Moscow 430 stations at which 3,000 bicycles and 260 electrobikes are placed work. New bicycle paths are going to be laid in the territory of near Black Lake in the area of Nekrasovka. Total length of a cycle route around the lake will be about 5 kilometers. Science. The new building of Presidium of the Russian Academy of Sciences on Sparrow Hills in Moscow. Moscow, the large world scientific center provided by the research institutes working in many industries such as nuclear power engineering, microelectronics, astronautics and others. Now in Moscow a third of scientists of Russia works. They produce about 40% of scientific publications. On number of the scientific publications indexed in Web of Science, Moscow takes the 11th place among the cities of the world and the second place in Europe, conceding only to London. On number of the leading higher education institutions provided in the international ratings of QS, the NRW, Moscow takes the 5th place among the cities of the world.
For the period 2014-2018 the number of scientific publications of authors from Moscow grew by 47.6% in comparison with the period of 2009-2013.
Science history. The early scientific research in Moscow began to be conducted at the Moscow University since 1755. In the 19th century at the university the scientific community studying the history of Russia, medicine, physics, Russian and other sciences began to arise. In 1828 in St.
Petersburg, the Rumyantsevsky Museum, a large collection of books, coins, manuscripts, other ethnographic and historical materials which in 1861 is transferred to Moscow as established, and in 1924 on its base the State Library of the USSR of 5.1. Lenin is created. Since 1992, the Russian State Library. In the 20th century in Moscow, the network of industry scientific institutions began to be formed. In Moscow, the All-Union Institute of Mineral Raw Materials, 1904. The Central Aerohydrodynamic Institute it appeared. Shukovsky, Saji, 1918. Physical and Chemical Institute of 50. Yao, Karpov, 1918. Moscow Technical University of Communications and Informatics, 1921. Institute of Atomic Energy of Kurchatov, 1943. Institute of Theoretical and Experimental Physics, 1945. And others. In Soviet period in Moscow, the academic network began to concentrate, were created or transferred to Moscow. All-Union Academy of Agricultural Sciences of Lenin, 1929. Academy of Sciences of the USSR, Presidium of Academy of Sciences of the USSR. It is translated from Leningrad in 1934. The USSR Academy of Medical Sciences, 1944. Academy of Pedagogical Sciences of Rusvers, 1943. The Higher Education. Moscow is one of the most important education centers of Russia. From the moment of formation of the first higher educational institution of the country, Slaviano, Greek-Latin Academy, in the city the considerable number of objects of education concentrated. In 1755 at the initiative of Shuvalov and Lomonosov, the Moscow University, the oldest and the most known in Russia, was founded. As of the end of 2009 in Moscow there were 264 higher educational institutions, from them 109 state or municipal and 155 non-state. The number of students was 1,281.1 people. 11 Moscow higher education institutions have the status of the national research universities. In Moscow there are about 400 libraries, among which there is the oldest public library of Russia, Scientific Library Masu, and the largest book depository in the country, the Russian State. Lenin Library. Secondary education. As of the end of 2010 in Moscow there were 1727 comprehensive schools, 1588 state and 139 private. In the city of 168 averages special educational institutions, 154 state and 14 private. There are 14 preschool educational institutions. Religion. Moscow, the center of Russian Orthodox Church, the Russian Orthodox Old Belief Church, the Russian Drevla Pravoslavny Church, the Russian Union of Evangelical Baptist Christians and other denominations. In Moscow all main world religions are provided. Officially in the city more than 1,000 religious associations and the organizations representing more than 50 various religious directions are registered.
The largest of the religious organizations is the Russian Orthodox Church. The Moscow Patriarchy. It includes about 500 associations and the organizations, 711 Orthodox churches and chapels, 6 men's and 6 convents which are a part of the Moscow City Diocese. 645 temples and chapels, the largest, the Cathedral of Christ the Savior, the main cathedral of Russia, are acting. Also 45 temples and chapels are at a stage of construction. According to the Vlast magazine, for November 2010 in Moscow 253 public Orthodox churches were open.
Old Belief Orthodox associations and the organizations, which there are about 10.
The largest, the Russian Orthodox Old Belief Church, which church services are made in 13 temples and chapels work in the city. Islam is represented by 25 associations and the organizations. The church service is held in 4 mosques, the largest of which is the Moscow Cathedral Mosque. Also in Moscow are provided Judaism, 21 consolidation and the organization, 5 synagogues. The Buddhism -16 associations and the organizations, 4 cult rooms is formed 1 temple.
The Armenian Apostolic Church -3 associations and the organizations, 2 temples, is under construction 2 temples.
Catholicism -12 associations and the organizations, 3 temples. Lutheranism -10 associations and the organizations, 3 temples. Protestantism, about 260 associations and the organizations, 42 houses of worship. The other religious directions, about 15 cult objects. Besides, in Moscow there are 45 religious centers, 10 spiritual educational institutions and as much monasteries. Crime. Data on crime in Moscow for 2014-2016. Number of the registered crimes, thousands. The number of the registered murders and attempts for 2006 in Moscow on each people of resident population makes 11.4, whereas on average in the country this indicator is equal to 20 registered murders a year on each people of resident population. Cases of slavery are noted.
In 2007, the percent of solvability of heavy and especially serious crimes was 36.8%.
It is the worst figure across Russia after St. Petersburg, 25.5%. Following the results of 2016, solvability of murders was 84.5%, solvability of rapes reached 95.3%. In general, the crime rate in Moscow remains high, though was reduced by 23.5%. In the period from January to August 2017 in Moscow, more than 90,000 crimes are registered. That is the highest rate not only in the CDFD, but also in the whole country. For the same period, more than 26,000 of heavy and especially serious crimes were registered, from them no more than 10.5 thousand are opened. For comparison, for the same period in the Republic of Dagestan too, 5,000 of heavy and especially serious crimes are registered, from them a little more than 2,000 is revealed. Healthcare. In Moscow there are 1857 medical and outpatient and polyclinic institutions. From them in the city over 250 clinical hospitals and hospitals of ambulance function. Also in the city there are 64 dental polyclinics, 19 maternity hospitals, about 20 children's homes. In Moscow the network from more than 1,700 outpatient and polyclinic organizations, including 256 nurseries works. According to official figures, average life expectancy in 2015 made 76.8 years. In 2016 the indicator grew up to 77 years, it is supposed that in 2018 it will make 78 years.
Cemeteries. With growth and development of the city, the territory of a number of cemeteries was reduced and some were destroyed.
Now within the city there are 63 operating cemeteries and 3 crematoriums.
Mtino. In the territory of the Mtino Cemetery, Nikolo-Arkhangelsk near the Nikolo-Arkhangelsk Cemetery, and Khovansky on Khovansky the cemetery.
Moscow, the large cultural and tourist center of Europe and the world, the Moscow region has one of the historical and cultural potentials, richest in Russia. In Moscow many interesting places are both various historical and cultural and architectural monuments, and modern entertaining infrastructure. Modern Moscow contains more than 100 theaters. The most known of them, the Bolshoi Theater, Maly Theater, Moscow Art Theater of Chekhov, Contemporary, Lenkom Theater, Taganka Theater, Peter Fomenko's Theater. In the city there are more than 60 museums. With the assistance of Moscow State University in Moscow, the Polytechnical, Historical, Zoological Museums, the Museum of Anthropology, Museum of Fine Arts of A.S. Pushkin, Botanical and Zoological Gardens, Moscow Zoo, were open. Among a set of the museums of the capital, it is also necessary to note the Tretyakov Gallery, founded by the Russian patron whose name is forever imprinted in the name of the museum. There are large exhibition spaces, Central House of Artists, showroom, Manes, etc. In addition to the state museums in Moscow, the set of private art galleries works, many of which specialize in the modern art. In Moscow several large movie theater chains. In total more than 100 cinema halls work, in which hire there are Russian and foreign movies. Many movie theaters represent the multicomplexes, allowing to show at the same time several movies on different screens.
In Moscow many large film studios are located.
Mosilm Film Studio M. Gorky, Soyamil Film and others. Annually there takes place the Moscow International Film Festival. More than 400 libraries, including National Russian State Library, work in the city. In Moscow many various night institutions, clubs, bars, restaurants, a variety show are located. For example, according to the website Poster, in the capital there are not less than 400 clubs. The main institutions concentrate in the Boulevard Ring, along Tverskaya Street, near Ostasenka, New Arbat, Kutuzovsky Avenue and others.
In Moscow 9 institutions awarded Michelin stars, one of the highest culinary awards in the world work.
Teatralny Drive adjoining Verner Kaitagorod, the location of a large number of boutiques.
Till July 1, 2009.
The date of entry into force of the legislation on restriction of gaming. In Moscow the large number of casino game clubs worked. In Moscow, Massachusetts, of opportunities for children's leisure. The most famous places which Muscovites and guests of the capital visit with children: Moscow Zoo, the Moscow Planetarium, the Museum of Entertaining Sciences Experimentanium, the Biological Museum of K. Timoryazov. In 2015 in the territory of Ania the Oceanarium Moskvarium was open. In the Nagotinsky floodplain, together with the DreamWorks company, world-class new amusement park, Island of a Dream, is under construction. Recently, modernization and reconstruction of the Moscow parks is conducted. They become more convenient for walks with children at the expense of the developed infrastructure. In many parks, bicycle rental and rollers works. Also in 2015, within the program of improvement in Moscow, more than 12,000 playgrounds were repaired. Zaryadny Park. In 2019, Moscow got a Tourist Award from World Travel Awards in the World's Leading City Destination 2019 nomination. The best destination city. Physical culture and sport. In Moscow, many sports constructions work. Among them there are more than 200 pools, about 40 sports palaces, over 30 stadiums calculated more than on 1,500 places, more than 20 covered ice arenas, 2,700 gyms, about 150 children's and youth sports schools, a bicycle track and the only Olympic cycle route which is within the city in the world in Krylatskoye. In Moscow there are 2 arenas for carrying out races. Central Moscow Hippodrome and Horse Racing Bitsa Complex. Many of sports constructions were constructed or reconstructed to holding the 22 Summer Olympic Games in Moscow in 1980. The Luzhniki and Olympiyskiy complexes are among such constructions. From 1960 to 1994 in the city, the largest swimming pool under the open sky, Moscow, functioned. In the 1990s, most large stadiums and sports complexes had not the best times in the history, and, as a rule, sporting events on them were almost not held. Instead, in their territory, the ware markets were organized. Some sports constructions became the commercial fitness centers. Such destiny happened, for example, to pools the Pravda and machine building plant Rasvet. Basketball, handball and mini-football competitions most often take place in Ust-Tseska and in Dynamo Sports Palaces in Krylatskoye and on Lavokin Street. Swimming competitions and tennis tournaments are most often held in the Olympic Complex or in Luzhniki. Hockey games are held in rather old palaces, Luzhniki Small Sports Arena, Sokolniki and Elsk-Tseska. In 2006 the Megasport Sports Palace was open. Also reconstruction of territories and the Dynamo stadiums which are in them, AV. Streltsov and Luzhniki is conducted. In August 2014 the Otkritie Arena Stadium, in August 2016, Seska Arena, was put into operation. In 2017 reconstruction of Luzhniki Stadium was completed. Along with these stadiums, matches of the Premier League are hosted by one more football stadium in Moscow, Lokomotiv. In addition to directly constructions giving an opportunity of holding various actions in the city, a huge number of the sports organizations from which such known football clubs as Dynamo, Lokomotiv, Spartak, Torpedo and Seska are distinguished is located. Hockey clubs, Dynamo, Spartak, Seska. Basketball clubs, Dynamo and Seska. Mini football clubs, Dynamo, Tyne, Seska and the Kirop. In the second half of 20 and in the first 2 decades of the 21st century, Moscow hosted the next large sports competitions and tournaments.
Since 1967, the annual international ice hockey tournament, the Cup of Channel 1, earlier known as a Tournament on Prizes of the Izvestia newspaper, is held. In 1973 in the city there took place the Summer Universiade.
In 1979, 2007 and 2016 in Moscow the World Ice Hockey Championship with a washer was held. In 2016, together with St. Petersburg. In 1980 Moscow hosted the 22 Summer Olympic Games. In 1986 the first Goodwill Games were held in Moscow. Since 1990 the tennis tournament Kremlin Cup is held. In 1998 the first World Junior Games were held in Moscow.
In 1999 the UEFA Cup final took place at Luzhniki Stadium, and in 2008 in the same place, a Champions League final of UEFA.
In 2005 and 2011 Moscow hosted the World Figure Skating Championship. In 2013 there took place the Rugby-7 World Cup. In 2013 in the city the Track and Field Athletics World Cup was held. In 2017 in Moscow a number of games of a Cup of Confederations on soccer was held. In 2018 in Moscow 12 of 64 matches of the FIFA World Cup including an opening match and a final were held. Matches in Moscow accepted 2 stadiums. Luzhniki 7 matches. And Spartak 5 matches. Near Masu building during the tournament the fan zone for fans was placed. Architecture and sites. Moscow, the important tourist center attracting guests with the remained monuments of the Russian architecture, from which number is included in the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List. The developing modern entertaining infrastructure. In the city quite large and developing hotel chain and hotels, large world hotel brands are provided.
Planning.
The plan to the capital city of Moscow, 1830 from complete collection of laws of the Russian Empire. Book of drawings and drawings. Plans of the cities.
Moscow long since was under construction with use of radial and ring planning.
Thus, the city consists of several streets going from the center, including Tver and rings. 3 transport, Makhad, the garden, 3rd transport and also boulevard ring.
The Moscow Metro is constructed by the same principle. The ring line and the Moscow Central Ring have stations of changes to radial lines which connect the center of Moscow with the outskirts. Construction of the second underground ring of the subway also continues.
One of the major shopping streets in Moscow, Tver, passes from Monetznaya Square through Tverskoye district, crosses the boulevard ring near Pushkin Square and comes to an end at Triumphal Square. Its continuation -1st Tverskaya Street, passes into Leningradsky Avenue near the Belarusian station. Bridges. Moscow is located on the river Moscow. On the urban area also smaller rivers, therefore the city has a large number of bridges flow. The most known of them: Big Stone Bridge and Small Stone Bridge, Krymsky Bridge, Zhivopisny Bridge. Moscow Kremlin and Red Square. The historic center of Moscow, the Moscow Kremlin. Walls and towers of fortress purchased the present type in the 17th century. Presently the Kremlin serves as the residence of the President of Russia. In its territory there are numerous temples and the museums. The ensemble of the Moscow Kremlin is included into the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List. Visit of the Kremlin is limited to museum zones. From east side the Kremlin is adjoined by the most known square of the capital, Red Square. It is surrounded by Pokrovsky Cathedral, Average Malls, Cum Building, Cathedral of Our Lady of Kazan, Iberian Gate conducting on Menesnaya Square, the Historical Museum. The area is adjoining Nikolsky, senatorial also by the best-known Spasskaya Tower with a chiming clock. At the Kremlin wall the necropolis. The Memorial Cemetery and the Lenin Mausoleum are built. Also in the territory of the area there are Lobnoe Mesto and a monument to Minin and Pozarsky. Except for particular cases. Journey of trains of the higher-ranking officials through the Spassky Gate, preparation for holding festive events, scheduled maintenance and so forth. The area is in the round-the-clock access for inhabitants and guests of the capital. Near the Kremlin in Alexandrovsk to a garden, the tomb of the unknown soldier has post no. One of Guard of Honor, the main guard post of the country. It is possible to distinguish a number of the unique places and buildings having world fame from a set of sites of the city. Undoubtedly it is possible to carry the Bolshoi Theatre, Museum of Fine Arts of A.S. Pushkin and the Tretyakov Gallery to their number.
It is necessary to mention the architecture monuments ranked as objects of World Heritage of UNESCO is the Novodevichy Convent and the Estate Kolomna. Buildings unique in own way are the hyperboloid design of the Tchaikovsky Tower and Ostankino Television Tower, keeping the status of the highest building in the world for 8 years.
At Yurylushkov, Moscow lost a set of architectural and historical monuments because of their replacement with copies, such as copies of Moscow Hotel, Vontorg on Vozdienka. Under the threat there is a cultural and historical environment of Moscow in general. Media. Now in Moscow the set of newspapers and magazines of various orientation, city. Information, entertaining, advertising. District newspapers of districts, areas and other municipal units is regularly issued. As of 2011, in Moscow broadcast 57 radio stations. 6 on AF and 51 on FM. Radio channels for 2017. In AF ranges 66, 74, 88, 108 MASH. EVs 612 and 738 CAS divide. 153, 171, 198 and 261 CAS. Stopped work. And row metal on time. 4996, 9996 and 16996 match. Average, long and short waves.
Most of them was transferred from Ostankino Television Tower and from a radio mast in Balashikha. For comparison, in New York there were 82 radio channels and
regular television broadcasting in the city began since 1939.
In the city broadcast 24 television channels, both federal and Aero regional.
All federal channels except Street. Petersburg Channel 5 broadcast from Moscow. Since 1980 in Moscow transfers from Leningrad began. For relaying of television transmitters and antennas are used. Shabalovka, Ostankino, Oktoberfeld, Sofrino. Honorable citizens. The rank of the Honorable Citizen of Moscow was entered in 1866, abolished after the October Revolution of 1917, restored in 1995. For the entire period of the existence 24 times were appropriated.
Among awarded this rank there were a surgeon N. 1. Pirogov, the patron P.M. Tretyakov, the Patriarch Alexei II, and other outstanding Muscovites. Now the rank of the Honorable Citizen of Moscow is carried. Composer A.N. Bakhmutova, Builder 5. E. Koplev, Scientist 5. A. Sadovnichian, Figure of Army and Veteran Movement I. A. Sluk A. In Moscow and suburbs annually a time in several years is held many large cultural and sporting events, various exhibitions and festivals. Among the most known and visited from them: the Moscow Motor Show, the Moscow International Film Festival, the Kremlin Cup, Arc Moscow, and the International Aerospace Salon, which is carried out in near Moscow area. Shukovsky. Twice in Moscow played the Delphic Games, the international scale the first. 2000, Moscow. And the All-Russian scale 11. 2012, Moscow. Moscow in works of art. Many Soviet, foreign and modern Russian composers and singers devoted the songs to Moscow. Both in Soviet and in post-Soviet time many movies which plot was developed in Moscow were shot, and the viewer could see the city from the screen of a cinema hall or a TV screen. In Moscow there take place shootings of many modern series. Moscow in astronomy. In honor of Moscow the asteroid 787. Moscow opened on April 20, 1914 by the Russian astronomer Grigory Nuyin in Semitsky Observatory is called Twin Cities. Moscow has many twin cities. Their most part appeared in the 1990s. Berlin and Buenos Aires in 1990 became the first twin cities. With Vienna partnership in 1956 was established. Besides, Moscow is also a partner city. Paris. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.